genuine love for God. And I'd like to just recap. Last time I spoke, I talked about the parable of the talents. And in the scripture in Matthew 25:14, it says, "For the kingdom of heaven is as a man travelling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. Unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2 talents, and to another 1. Now talents is a value like money scenario. To every man according to his several ability, and straightway he took his journey." So he gave them the goods, 1 5, 1 2, 1 1, and then he went off. And that word several ability, according to every man's ability, was the same word dunamis, or dynamite, where the root is. Dunamis is the same power that came down on the day of Pentecost with the tongues of fire and the tongues that occurred as well. So it's literally special, miraculous power, usually by implication, a miracle itself. King James Version says ability and abundance, meaning mighty, a deed, a worker of miracles, worker of power, strength, violence. So what I'm trying to point out here is that God actually knows your abilities or your dunamis. Now it doesn't matter whether you have 5, 10, 100 or 1,000. The issue is that if you have one that God can use, you've got to do something with it. You've got to do something with it. If you multiply the 1, you're just as good as the guy that multiplied 5. The issue is God expects us to do something with the gifts that he gives us. Now, one of the biggest gifts that he's given all of us, because we're here this morning, is he's given us the opportunity to walk with him forever. Now, there's been a lot of talk. I follow the prophetic on a daily basis. Every morning I check through and just see what's happening. And stuff happens on a daily basis. In the news, to do with Palestine. It says in the last days to look at Israel and watch Israel. And there are certain signs. It says not to be caught asleep or partying or drunken on the day of the Lord when he returns. It talks about a so-called rapture where God is going to take his church, his bride, out of the place before the turmoil happens. And you know, that's a different subject, it's all on the prophetic. But I'm following that very closely, and you're seeing a lot of things lining up today over there. In the prophetic, it's talking a lot about the rapture. The rapture's coming to the forefront again. People think that that very soon, it's imminent, it's very close. It was close before, it's now very imminent. What type of people do we have to be? We are the church of God. We are the sons and daughters of God, as we've heard. God foreknew us and predestined us to be conformed into the image of his Son. That's what he did. He predestined us to be conformed into the image, so he drew us. That's why we're here this morning. Why are we here this morning? As I've often said, we haven't come for the cup of tea. Although sometimes you feel like that's all you want to do. Sometimes, I know I'm talking about myself, I can't wait for the 30 minutes of whoever's up here to disappear. I was in a fellowship where when I first got saved, where water baptism was a thing that happened on a regular basis every Sunday. It was a fellowship of about 300 odd people. And somebody always was getting water baptised. I was bored to tears by the time the water baptisms were finished. Now I was talking about me. I've been walking for a while, I've gone through a whole lot of stuff, and I know a lot of things. But none of that's important. You see, the 5 talents, the 2 talents, and the 1 talent, the man who had the 1 talent buried the talent. He said if we actually go over to Matthew 25:15, those who've got a Bible, Matthew 25. So in verse 16, he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with the talents and made another 5. Likewise, he who had received 2 gained 2 more also, so he doubled it. But he who received the 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came out and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 came out and bought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered me 5, look, I've gained 5 more. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You are faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of the Lord. He also had received the 2 talents, came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many. Enter into the joy of the Lord. He who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid, and I hid your talent in the ground. Look, you dug it up, here it is. You can have it back. The Lord answered and said to him, You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own interest. Therefore take the talent from him, give it to him who has the 10. For to everyone who has, more will be given. He will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even that he has will be taken away. And he cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness, and there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What does this say? Sounds hard. But in the plan of God, he is not creating robots out of any of us. He can give us the opportunity to walk with him and receive his promises. But it's up to us to do some stuff with what he's given us. Our salvation. Come to fellowship for a start. If you can, come with a smile. That's a good thing. Try and get to the prayer meetings. I'm talking about myself. I have every good intention on a Wednesday to come to the prayer meetings, but when I crawl home with my paint all over me and I do my routine around the house, I realise how much of a sacrifice people make to come to a prayer meeting. It's a biggie. Yet I'll tell you, probably right around the world, churches have the prayer meetings, and as we've heard before, and there might only be 3 or 4 people out of a church of 300 people going to that prayer meeting, going the extra mile. I'm not saying people don't do their prayer at home, but you see, it's a continual thing. It's a continual process. Our garments. There's another scripture here I want to go to. We might go to that, Matthew 22, verse 3. The kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son. Now, in a sense, we're talking about God the Father and Jesus Christ. And he sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding, and they were not willing to come. So the invitations had gone out, and everyone got the invitations. But the RSVP didn't happen with a lot of them. And he sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding, and they were not willing to come. And again he sent the other servants, saying, Tell those who are invited, See, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fatted cattle are killed. All things are ready. Come to the wedding. But they made light of it, and they went their ways, one to his own farm, another to his business. And in another scripture over in Luke, it says that one said, I can't come because I've bought a property and I need to go out and look at it. Another one can't come because he bought some oxen, he has to go and test them. Another one can't come because he married a woman, a wife, and he needs to go and check her out. He can't come. So those were things that they didn't have to do straight away. They were things they could have put aside and still done them, but they didn't come didn't want to go to the wedding. So they made light of it. And in verse 7, when the king heard about it, he was furious, and he sent out his armies, destroying those murderers, and burned up their city. Then he said to his servants, the wedding is ready, but those who were invited are not worthy. Therefore go into the highways and the byways, and as many as you find, invite them to the wedding. Servants went into the highways and gathered together all whom they found, both bad and good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he saw a man there who did not have on a wedding garment. So he said to him, friend, how did you get in here without a wedding garment? And the guy was speechless. And the king said to the servants, bind him hand and foot, take him away, cast him into the outer darkness, and there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. Whose job is it to put the wedding garment on? When you go to a wedding, whose job is it to work out what you're going to wear that's fitting for a wedding? We had a wedding here not long ago. I hummed and hard, what am I going to wear? You have to have a wedding garment on, and you have to put it on. And you have to keep your garments clean. He can't just turn us into robots and say, look, I'll make him clean, I'll make him this, I'll make him that, I'll give him salvation, all of that. It's not fair. We have to do something too. And why am I saying all of this? Because we are in the imminent last moments, and the possibility is that God will rapture his church maybe this year,